The moment Sarah turned the key and pushed open the door, a chill ran down her spine. It wasn't the cold wind outside, no, something else was wrong. The house felt different. Silent, but heavy. Like it was holding its breath. She stepped inside, calling out softly, "Mom? Dad?" No answer. She flicked on the light switch, but the kitchen was already bathed in a strange, dull glow. Sarah's heart pounded as she moved toward the kitchen table. And then she saw it. There, in the middle of the table, was an object wrapped in a rough, dirty cloth. Something bulky. Something wrong. Her fingers trembled as she reached out, pulling the cloth away. Underneath lay a small, weathered box, old, covered in dust, and stained with dark patches. But what made Sarah freeze was the strange symbol carved on the lid. It looked ancient. Like something out of a storybook. Her breath caught. "What is this?" she whispered. Behind her, the front door creaked. Sarah spun around, heart hammering, but no one was there. Just the empty hallway. She glanced back at the box. A knot of fear twisted inside her. She wanted to close the lid, push the box away, pretend it wasn't there. But something made her stop. That's when the others started arriving. First came Mike, her brother. His eyes widened as he saw the box. "Where did you find that?" he asked, voice low. Sarah shook her head, unable to answer. Then their mother walked in, looking tired but smiling. "What's going on?" she asked, glancing at the table. Mike moved closer and gently lifted the lid. Inside, they saw something they never expected. Mike's fingers trembled as he slowly lifted the lid of the old, weathered box. The faint scent of something musty and forgotten escaped into the air, mixing with the thick silence that had fallen over the kitchen. Sarah and their mother, Linda, leaned in closer, eyes fixed on the contents. Inside, nestled in faded velvet, lay a collection of old letters tied with a brittle red ribbon, a strange-looking key made of iron, and a small, folded photograph, its edges yellowed with age. Mike picked up the photograph first. His brow furrowed as he examined the image, a black and white picture of a house, but not their house. This one was older, grander, surrounded by tall trees and what looked like a mist rolling through the yard. Standing on the porch was a man, staring directly at the camera with piercing eyes that seemed too sharp, too knowing. "Who's this?" Linda asked, her voice barely a whisper. Sarah shook her head. "I don't recognize him." Mike untied the ribbon carefully, pulling out the letters. The handwriting was elegant but hurried. The first letter was dated more than 50 years ago. He began to read aloud. Letter 1. June 12, 1971. The days grow darker here. I fear I am being watched. There are secrets buried in this house, secrets I don't know if I want to uncover. But the key, the one hidden beneath the floorboard in the study, might hold answers to things I cannot face alone. If you find this letter, know that I trusted you more than anyone. Mike's voice faltered. What study? We don't have a study. Linda looked pale. This isn't our house then, could this box have come from somewhere else? Sarah swallowed hard. Wait. What if this has something to do with Grandpa? Their grandfather had passed away just last year, and although the family had always spoken about him, some parts of his life had remained a mystery. He'd never talked much about his past or the house he grew up in. Let's look through the rest of the letters, Sarah suggested, a sudden urgency in her voice. Mike nodded, flipping through them. Each letter grew more desperate, filled with warnings and references to shadows, hidden doors, and voices in the night. Letter 2. July 5, 1971. The key did open the door beneath the floorboard. What I found beyond it has changed everything. A room, untouched and locked away from time, filled with artifacts and papers. But I am not alone here. The house watches, waits. I hear footsteps when no one should be here. I fear for my life. Linda covered her mouth with her hand. This is terrifying. Sarah looked at the iron key in Mike's hand, wondering what door it might unlock. We need to find that room. Mike nodded. But where? The next hours were filled with tension and hushed conversations. The box had sparked something deep inside the family, curiosity mixed with fear. Sarah's phone buzzed. It was a message from her cousin, Tom. Did you find anything? Heard strange things about Grandpa's old house? Sarah quickly typed back, we found this box. Letters and a key. It talks about a hidden room. Tom replied almost instantly. You need to be careful. Grandpa's house holds more secrets than you know. And some things are better left buried. Sarah shivered, but the mystery had pulled her in too deep. The family decided to drive to Grandpa's old house the next day. The air was thick with anticipation and dread. When they arrived, the house looked just like the photo, old, grand, surrounded by towering trees casting long shadows. Inside, the floorboards creaked beneath their feet. Dust particles floated in the beams of sunlight slicing through the windows. Sarah's heart pounded as they searched room by room, looking for anything unusual. Finally, Mike spotted a loose floorboard in the study, just like the letter described. With effort, they pried it open. Beneath was a small iron lockbox, rusted shut but still intact. Mike fitted the key into the lock. It turned with a sharp click. Inside, they found more letters, strange maps, and an old journal, Grandpa's journal. Sarah opened the journal carefully, reading aloud the first entry. I have lived with secrets all my life. This house is a cage, but it's also a vault for what must never see the light of day. If you found this, know that danger follows those who dig too deep. Suddenly, a noise echoed from upstairs, a floorboard creaked. Everyone froze. The house was supposed to be empty. Sarah's heart pounded. We're not alone. The sudden creak upstairs sent a jolt through everyone's body. Sarah's breath caught, and she slowly turned toward the staircase. The house, already heavy with silence and secrets, now felt alive in the most terrifying way. Did you hear that? Mike whispered, his voice barely audible. Linda nodded, her eyes wide. We should leave. No, Sarah said firmly, though her voice trembled. We need to know what's going on. Mike grabbed a flashlight from the living room table and clicked it on. The narrow beam cut through the dusty air as he pointed it toward the staircase. Stay close, he warned. The three of them ascended the creaky stairs, each step echoing through the empty halls like a warning. The air grew colder as they moved higher, and the smell of old wood mixed with something metallic, like rust or blood. At the top of the stairs, the hallway stretched long and narrow. Doors lined both sides, their paint peeling and knobs tarnished. The house seemed frozen in time, every detail whispering stories they weren't supposed to hear. A soft thud echoed from the far end. Mike moved toward it, flashlight shaking slightly. Sarah and Linda followed, hearts pounding. The noise came from the attic door, heavy and old, but slightly ajar. Mike reached out, pushed it open slowly, and the flashlight revealed a dim, cluttered space filled with forgotten furniture, old boxes, and webs. Suddenly, something moved. A shadow darted behind a stack of crates. Sarah gasped. Who's there? Mike called out, trying to keep his voice steady. No answer. Linda gripped Sarah's arm. This was a mistake. But Sarah felt something deep inside pull her forward. No. We have to face this. They began to search the attic carefully, uncovering more relics from the past. Old photographs, dusty books, and strange objects wrapped in cloth. Among them was a small, rusted box with the same symbol carved into the lid as the box from the kitchen table. Sarah's fingers trembled as she touched it. The symbols seemed to pulse beneath her skin. "Look at this," Mike said, holding up a torn piece of paper they found inside the box. It was a map, hand-drawn, but precise. The house was sketched in detail, with markings indicating secret passages, hidden compartments, and something labeled only as the heart. "The heart?" Linda whispered. "It must be what Grandpa was hiding," Sarah said. Suddenly, a cold breeze swept through the attic, extinguishing the flashlight. Darkness swallowed them. Panic surged. Sarah's hand found Mike's arm. "Don't move." A whisper echoed around them, a soft voice, almost like a sigh, barely audible but unmistakable. "Get out." The lights flickered back on. Nothing was there. But the warning hung in the air. They hurried downstairs, the map clutched tightly in Mike's hand. Outside. The sun was setting, painting the sky in angry reds and purples. "We need to find the heart before nightfall," Sarah said, eyes scanning the map. "Whatever it is, it could explain everything." Linda nodded, fear and determination mixing in her gaze. Back in the study, they spread the map on the desk. The room looked ordinary, but the map revealed hidden details: a loose panel behind the bookcase, a trapdoor beneath the rug, and a corridor leading deep underground. Mike pulled back the rug. A heavy trapdoor lay beneath, dust-covered and cold to the touch. "Are we really going down there?" Linda asked, voice shaking. "There's no choice," Sarah said. With effort, they lifted the trapdoor. A spiral staircase descended into darkness. Mike flicked on his flashlight, shining the beam downward. The stairs seemed to go on forever. They began their descent. The air grew colder, damper. A faint smell of earth and decay filled their noses. At the bottom, they found a narrow tunnel, carved roughly into the stone. Sarah's heart pounded as they moved forward, the flashlight beam cutting through the black. Suddenly, the ground shook beneath their feet, a low rumble. Dust fell from the ceiling. "We have to hurry," Mike urged. They followed the map, turning left, then right, deeper into the labyrinth. The walls were lined with strange symbols, some matching the ones on the boxes, others unfamiliar, twisted shapes that seemed to writhe in the dim light. After what felt like hours, they reached a heavy iron door, set into the rock. The door was locked, but the iron key from the kitchen table fit perfectly. Mike turned it slowly. The door creaked open to reveal a large chamber, lit faintly by flickering torches and sconces along the walls. Inside was a room unlike anything they expected. At its center lay a stone pedestal, and on it, an ancient book, bound in cracked leather and sealed with a rusty clasp. Around the pedestal were strange objects, old tools, bones, and what looked like a heart carved from black stone. Sarah reached out to touch the book. The moment her fingers brushed the cover, a sudden noise exploded behind them, a loud crash as the iron door slammed shut. They spun around, trapped. Panic surged. Suddenly, the flickering torchlight revealed a figure standing in the shadows, a man, tall and gaunt, with eyes that seemed to glow in the dark. "Welcome," he said in a low, gravelly voice. "I've been waiting for you." The man stepped forward from the darkness, his eyes sharp and cold. Sarah's heart hammered so loud it felt like it would burst through her chest. Mike tightened his grip on the flashlight, trying to steady his shaking hands. Linda's breath caught in her throat, frozen in place by fear. "Who are you?" Sarah demanded, her voice barely more than a whisper, but carrying all the force she could muster. The stranger smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. It was thin, almost mocking. "You can call me Elias. I've been the keeper of this house and its secrets for longer than you can imagine." Mike swallowed hard. "What do you want from us?" Elias's eyes flicked toward the ancient book on the pedestal. "You've come far to find answers, haven't you? But some truths come with a price." Linda's hand went to her mouth. "We didn't mean to intrude." "Too late for that," Elias said, his voice low and cold. "Now you are part of the story, whether you like it or not." The room seemed to close in around them, the flickering torches casting long shadows that danced on the walls. Sarah felt a chill creep up her spine. The air was thick with an invisible weight, a mixture of fear, history, and something unexplainable. Elias stepped closer, reaching out a pale hand toward the ancient book. "This book holds knowledge that could change everything you thought you knew about your family, and this house." Sarah exchanged a quick glance with Mike and Linda. Despite the fear knotting in her stomach, she felt a strange pull toward the book. "Why did Grandpa keep all this hidden?" she asked. Elias's eyes darkened. "Because what's inside could destroy more than just your family. It could change the world." Mike stepped forward, his jaw set. "Tell us what we need to do." Elias nodded slowly. "First, you must prove yourselves worthy. The house is alive, it tests those who seek its secrets. You will face trials, dangers you cannot imagine." Linda gasped. "Trials? What kind of trials?" Elias smiled again, this time less menacing. "The kind that will force you to confront your deepest fears and your greatest strengths." Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath their feet. Dust and small stones fell from the ceiling, and the torches flickered wildly. Elias's eyes narrowed. "Time is running out." Before they could ask what he meant, the iron door behind them slammed shut with a deafening clang. The three exchanged panicked looks. Sarah's mind raced. They were trapped, deep underground, with a stranger who spoke in riddles and shadows. "Show us the way," Mike demanded, trying to sound braver than he felt. Elias reached into his coat and pulled out a small, glowing orb. It hovered in the air, casting a soft light that pushed back the darkness. "This will guide you," Elias said. "But it will not protect you. You must rely on each other." The orb floated ahead as Elias led them deeper into the cavernous tunnels beneath the house. The walls glistened with moisture, and the air grew colder and heavier with every step. Sarah kept close to Linda, who squeezed her hand tightly. Mike stayed beside Elias, eyes sharp and alert. After several minutes, they came to a fork in the path. Elias stopped and pointed to the left tunnel. "That path leads to the first trial. The choice is yours, but beware. The wrong path could mean your end." Sarah looked at Mike and Linda, then nodded. "We'll take the left path." Elias gave a small nod of approval and stepped back. The glowing orb floated ahead as they moved cautiously into the tunnel. The air grew thicker, harder to breathe. Strange sounds echoed. Distant whispers, the drip of water, the scuttle of unseen creatures. Suddenly, the tunnel opened into a vast chamber. The walls were covered in ancient symbols, some glowing faintly with a ghostly light. In the center was a large pit, dark and bottomless. Sarah felt her stomach twist. "How do we get across?" Mike scanned the chamber. "Look for a way, maybe a bridge or stepping stones." They circled the pit, eyes searching every inch of the floor and walls. Then Linda gasped. "There. Over there." On the far side, a narrow stone bridge stretched across the pit. It looked fragile, cracked and worn with age. Sarah swallowed hard. "We have to cross." Mike stepped forward first, testing the bridge with his foot. It shifted slightly, but held. One by one, they carefully made their way across, the stones creaking under their weight. Halfway across, the bridge shook violently. Dust and small rocks rained down from above. Sarah's heart pounded. She looked back. Elias was standing at the edge of the chamber, watching silently. With a deep breath, they pushed forward, muscles tight with fear. Finally, they reached the other side, stepping onto solid ground. The chamber opened into a maze of narrow corridors. As they moved forward, the walls seemed to close in, and strange visions flickered before their eyes. Sarah saw flashes of her childhood, moments of joy and pain, and a shadowy figure looming behind her. She blinked and the vision vanished, replaced by cold stone walls. Linda trembled beside her. "What was that?" "I don't know," Sarah whispered. "But this place is messing with our minds." Mike stopped suddenly, pointing to a narrow doorway ahead. "Look, there's light coming from there." They entered the room to find a small shrine, covered in candles and old photographs. On the altar was a single note. "Face your past, or be lost forever." Sarah's breath hitched. "What does that mean?" Mike reached out and picked up a photograph. It was of their grandfather, younger, standing with a woman they didn't recognize. Linda's eyes filled with tears. "That's Aunt Ruth. We never knew she existed." Suddenly, the candles flickered out, plunging the room into darkness. A voice whispered behind them, "The truth is waiting." The lights flickered back on to reveal Elias standing in the doorway, a grim look on his face. "You've passed the first trial," he said. "But the next will test your very souls." Sarah felt a surge of determination. "We're ready." Elias nodded. "Then follow me." The journey continued, deeper into the labyrinth beneath the house. Each step brought new dangers, illusions that preyed on their fears, puzzles that challenged their minds, and moments of weakness that threatened to tear them apart. Sarah felt her hope waver at times, but the bond between her, Mike, and Linda grew stronger. Together, they faced shadows from their pasts, secrets long buried, and the weight of the house's mysteries. At last, they reached a vast chamber filled with strange artifacts and glowing crystals. In the center was a pedestal similar to the one in the previous room. On it lay a small box, locked tight. Elias turned to them. "The final test is here. Open the box, and face what lies within." Mike stepped forward, hands steady despite the tension. He lifted the lid. Inside was a mirror, but not an ordinary one. As each of them looked into it, the reflection showed not their faces, but their deepest fears and regrets. Sarah saw herself alone, lost in darkness. Linda saw a painful memory of a family betrayal. Mike saw the moment he almost gave up on them all. Tears welled in their eyes. "We must accept these parts of ourselves," Elias said softly. "Only then can the truth be free." The three closed their eyes, breathing deeply. When they opened them again, the mirror showed their real reflections. The locked box shimmered and dissolved into dust. Elias smiled faintly. "You have proven yourselves worthy. The secrets of this house will now be yours." But with knowledge comes responsibility. Sarah looked at him, heart pounding. "What happens now?" Elias stepped back into the shadows. "The house will guide you, but be warned. Some secrets are harder to bear than others." The iron door behind them slowly creaked open. The path back to the surface was clear. But Sarah knew their journey was far from over. As they stepped into the light, the weight of what they had uncovered pressed down on them. The mystery of the house was only beginning. The morning light poured into the old house as Sarah, Mike, and Linda climbed the creaky stairs from the labyrinth beneath. The fresh air felt sharp in their lungs, a stark contrast to the cold, heavy darkness below. But despite the sunlight, a shadow still hung over them. The weight of what they'd uncovered and the trials they'd survived. Pressed down like a stone. Sarah glanced at the faded wallpaper, the familiar creaks and cracks, and wondered how much of the house's mystery had been hidden in plain sight all these years. "We have to figure out what it all means," Mike said quietly, breaking the silence. Linda nodded, her face pale but determined. "Grandpa's past. Aunt Ruth, this house. Everything is connected." Sarah took a deep breath. "We have the book," the letters, and now the memories we faced in that mirror. It's time to dig deeper. They gathered around the kitchen table, the very same table where the old box had first been found. The ancient book lay open, its cracked leather cover creaking as they turned the fragile pages. The faded handwriting was difficult to read, but the journal revealed stories no one had known before. Grandpa's words painted a picture of a man caught between loyalty and secrets, a protector of a hidden legacy that stretched beyond the walls of the house. There are forces at work, one entry began, that I have tried to keep at bay. This house is a fortress, but also a prison. The key I left behind was not just to a door, but to a truth that could shake the foundations of what we believe. Sarah read aloud, her voice steady despite the tremble inside her. Mike leaned closer. What truth? The next pages hinted at a hidden society, one that had guarded the house and its secrets for generations. Grandpa had been a part of it, but the journal spoke of betrayal, danger, and a choice he made that changed everything. As they continued reading, a sudden knock at the front door made them jump. Linda moved cautiously toward the door. Who could that be at this hour? Mike and Sarah exchanged a wary glance. Linda opened the door slowly. Standing there was a woman in her late 50s, with sharp eyes and a confident stance. I'm Evelyn, she said calmly. I knew your grandfather. I've been waiting for you. Evelyn stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. Her presence filled the room, strong, unsettling. Sarah watched her carefully. You're part of this, Sarah said. The secrets. The house. Tell us what you know. Evelyn nodded. Your grandfather trusted me with a task, to protect what lies beneath this house. Linda frowned. But why didn't he tell us? Evelyn sighed. Because some truths are dangerous. And the society that guards these secrets doesn't tolerate mistakes. Mike's jaw tightened. Mistakes? What happened? Evelyn pulled a worn leather satchel from her bag and placed it on the table. Inside were photographs, documents, and a strange device, a small metal box with dials and switches. This, Evelyn said, is a relic from the past. It was used to monitor the house, to detect disturbances. Sarah picked up the device, feeling the cold metal beneath her fingers. What kind of disturbances? She asked. Evelyn's eyes darkened. Not just physical. The house reacts to those who seek its secrets. Sometimes, it fights back. Linda's voice trembled. We saw that. The trials. The illusions. Evelyn nodded. And there is more to come. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and the house seemed to groan, as if warning them. Sarah looked at Evelyn sharply. Why are you here now? Because the balance is shifting, Evelyn said. Others are coming, people who want the secrets for themselves. Mike's fists clenched. We won't let that happen. Evelyn smiled faintly. I hope you're ready. Because the true danger hasn't even begun. That night, the house felt alive in a new way. Every creak, every shadow seemed charged with meaning. Sarah couldn't sleep. She paced the living room, mind racing with questions. Who were the others Evelyn spoke of? What would they do to get the secrets? And most haunting of all, what had Grandpa really been protecting? The next day, Evelyn led them to a hidden room behind the library, a place Grandpa had called the sanctuary. Inside, the walls were covered with maps, strange symbols, and ancient artifacts. Evelyn explained that this was the heart of the society, a place where decisions were made and secrets guarded. She handed Sarah a small, worn book, a record of past guardians. As the last of your family, you have a role now, Evelyn said. Sarah's hands shook. What do we have to do? Evelyn's gaze was steady. Protect the legacy. Face what's coming. And uncover the truth behind your grandfather's choice. Days passed, and the tension grew. Strange noises echoed in the night. Footsteps in the hallways when no one was there. And always, the feeling of being watched. One evening, as Sarah studied the book, Mike burst into the room, pale and breathless. "There's someone outside," he said urgently. "Watching the house." Linda grabbed a flashlight. "We need to be ready." They spent the night in the living room, windows barred and doors locked. But just before dawn, a loud crash echoed from the basement. They raced down, hearts pounding. In the dim light, they saw signs of forced entry, footprints in the dust, disturbed boxes. Sarah's blood ran cold. "They're here," she whispered. Evelyn appeared behind them, calm but fierce. "It's time to face them." Outside, shadows moved among the trees. Figures cloaked in black, their faces hidden. They circled the house like predators. Inside, Sarah, Mike, Linda, and Evelyn prepared to defend their home, and the secrets buried within. The true battle was about to begin. The night outside was alive with menace. Dark figures moved silently, weaving shadows through the trees like ghosts hunting prey. Inside the old house, Sarah's heart pounded so loud she thought they'd hear it from beyond the walls. Mike stood by the window, peering through the cracked blinds, eyes sharp and tense. Linda clutched a heavy candlestick, her knuckles white, ready to defend their home. Evelyn was calm, almost eerily so, standing near the ancient book on the table as if drawing strength from it. "We can't let them in," Sarah whispered, voice tight with fear. Evelyn nodded. "They want the secrets buried beneath this house. Secrets that could change everything, if they get their hands on them." Sarah swallowed hard. She thought of the journey, the trials in the dark tunnels, the mirror showing their fears, the hidden past of their grandfather. Everything had led to this moment. Suddenly, a loud bang shook the front door. Mike jumped, then moved swiftly to the door, bracing himself. "They're breaking in," he said grimly. The house seemed to groan in protest as the intruders forced the door open. Sarah, Linda, Mike, and Evelyn gathered near the staircase, the old wooden steps creaking under their weight. The figures poured in, cloaked, silent, their faces obscured by shadows. Sarah stepped forward, voice steady despite the fear. "Who are you? What do you want?" One of the figures stepped into the light, revealing a man with cold eyes and a scar running down his cheek. "We want the truth your grandfather hid," he said. "The power this house holds." Mike clenched his fists. "You won't get it." The intruders moved quickly, spreading through the rooms like a dark tide. A struggle broke out. Linda swung her candlestick, knocking one attacker to the floor. Mike grabbed a heavy lamp and stood his ground. Sarah and Evelyn backed toward the library, trying to keep the ancient book safe. The man with the scar caught sight of them and lunged. Sarah dodged, her heart racing. "Run!" Evelyn shouted. Sarah grabbed the book and fled upstairs, Mike and Linda close behind. They burst into the attic, a dusty, forgotten space filled with old trunks and forgotten memories. Sarah flipped open the book, searching for answers. Evelyn appeared beside her, pulling out a small key from her pocket. "This opens the final secret," she said. Sarah inserted the key into a hidden lock on the floor. With a soft click, a trapdoor opened, revealing a narrow staircase spiraling downward. "This is where your grandfather hid the truth," Evelyn said. Without hesitation, they descended into the darkness. The staircase opened into a cavernous room, glowing faintly with blue light from crystals embedded in the walls. In the center stood a pedestal with an ancient device, the same one Evelyn had shown them earlier, but larger, more complex. Evelyn explained, "This device controls the balance of power tied to this house. It holds the key to secrets your grandfather protected." Sarah reached out, trembling, and touched the device. Suddenly, a flood of images overwhelmed her mind, visions of their grandfather working alongside others, the sacrifices made, the battles fought to keep the world safe from a dangerous truth. The device pulsed with energy. "We must decide what to do with it," Evelyn said quietly. Mike frowned. "If the wrong people get this, they could use it for destruction." Linda nodded. "But hiding it forever might not be right either." Sarah's eyes shone with determination. "We need to protect it, but also understand it. Knowledge isn't just power, it's responsibility." Suddenly, footsteps echoed behind them. The scarred man and his group had followed. "We'll take the device," he said, stepping forward. Evelyn stood firm. "You don't understand what you're dealing with." A tense standoff ensued. Then, with a flash, the device activated, sending a wave of light through the cavern. The intruders were thrown back, stunned. In the sudden silence, Sarah felt a calm wash over her. Evelyn looked at her, smiling softly. "You've done what your grandfather couldn't, faced the fear, accepted the past, and embraced the future." The intruders fled, beaten but alive. Sarah, Mike, Linda, and Evelyn returned to the house, forever changed. In the days that followed, the old house became a place of learning, not fear. Sarah pored over the book, uncovering stories of resilience, sacrifice, and hope. They understood now that the true mystery wasn't just about secrets, it was about the courage to face them. Lesson: sometimes, the greatest battles aren't fought against others, they are fought within ourselves. Fear, doubt, and pain may shadow the path, but resilience and hope light the way. The past holds power, but it is our choices that shape the future. Sarah looked at her family, feeling a deep connection, not just to the house or the secrets, but to the strength that had carried them through. "We are the keepers now," she said. "And with that comes the responsibility to protect, to learn, and to grow." The house, once a prison of secrets, had become a beacon of hope. And their story, the story of survival, mystery, and courage, was just beginning.